Rolling.
All right. It's my informational speech. And that'll be about the heart. Everyone has a heart. So we'll talk about the position of the heart in the body first. We can have levo position, which means it's on the left side of the heart, or left side of the body. Meso position, which means it's in the middle, and dextro position, which means it's on the right side of the heart. Now, once we've determined the position of the heart, then we have to determine which way the apex is pointed. If it's pointed to the left, that's levocardia. If it's pointed down to the middle, that's mesocardia. And if it's pointed off to the right, then that's dextrocardia. The heart can also be pointed to the right. It can also be called dextrocardia or dextroposition, according to Dr. Kaneshiro, the clinical associate professor at pediatric cardiology at the University of Washington School of Medicine out in Seattle, Washington. So once we've found out which way the apex is pointed, which is the tip of the heart, then we can also discuss the base, which is actually the top part of the heart. And out of the base comes the pulmonary artery, which goes off to the lungs. And then off of the left side of the heart is the aorta, which goes off to the circulation through the body. And to bring the blood back to the heart, we have pulmonary veins, which comes from the lungs into the left atrium, and from the body, it comes from the inferior vena cava and super vena cava, and goes into the right atrium. And also with the heart, there's a cardiac cycle, so there's systole where the heart is squeezing, and diastole where it's relaxing. And during contraction, there's a depolarization, which means the electricity goes from the endocardium to the epicardial layers, according to Dr. Paul Mazio, who was quoted in the Handbook of Cardiac Anatomy, Physiology, and Devices, 2nd edition. And with diastole, which is the relaxing part, the heart helps refill and the cardiac cells repolarize. And to get blood to actually heart muscle itself, they have coronary arteries, and these coronary arteries perfuse the heart muscle and eventually go from arteries to arterioles and come back into veins, which is collected into the coronary sinus, which goes back into the right atrium along with the IVC and SVC. And there's 4 chambers to the heart. The top part, which is also the base, there's the atria. There's the right atrium and the left atrium. Pulmonary veins come into the left atrium, and the right atrium has the IVC, SVC, and coronary sinus. And the ventricles are in the bottom. They're the 2 muscular chambers. They pump blood out to the lungs from the right ventricle and to the body with the left ventricle. And we also have our arterial or atrioventricular valves, which are valves in between the top chambers and the bottom chambers. And that basically helps the blood from flowing back when the heart's in diastole. So we have the mitral valve on the left side and tricuspid valve on the right side. And in the arteries, we have the ventricular arterial valves. So we have the aortic valve on the left side and pulmonary valve on the right side. And those make sure the blood doesn't go backwards during systoling. And also with the ventricles, we also have they're composed of 3 layers. There's the epicardium, the myocardium, and epicardium. And endocardial layer is the internal part of the heart. It actually helps cover the valves and just all the internal structures of the heart. The myocardium is the actual muscle, so whenever you have a heart attack, that's the stuff that dies if you have an infarction. And we have our epicardium, which is sort of a more complex layer. There's the outside of the heart that's part of the epicardium, but instead of just forming just the one little sac, it actually doubles back on itself, and that helps form the pericardium. And inside there we have our pericardial sac, and that's a tough fiber sac. It's very similar to chicken gristle. It helps protect the heart from the various friction and also just the bug grind of everyday life. There's usually about 30 cc's of fluid, and to kind of sum it up, the heart beats with that conscious thought for days and weeks on end and years, and the heart moves blood forward like we move forward through life. That's it.